what it's conditioned to do. Celebrate what Christ has done in the person of Jesus Christ. Though we talk about it week after week, and you may meditate on it day after day, this is a communal way which we come together to do it in a focused way. It is a time for celebration. It is not a time of depression. And as I indicated to you before, we want to find a way to facilitate communion in a different way than what we've been doing, because then we think people will be more apt to embrace it. For the next few minutes, I want to talk about two concepts. I want to deal with, and I'm not going to do the flowery way of making one topic just merge into the other, because I only have a few minutes. I want to deal with two topics: the Big Bang that the Pope talked about this week, and the concept of being perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect. Is that okay? All right. I want to begin by reading this text, then a word of prayer, and then I'm going into those two topics. The text the main text is Matthew chapter 5. You may want to turn there. You probably know it by heart, or maybe you don't, but I want to read it in your hearing. Matthew chapter 5, verses 43 through 48. Matthew chapter 5, verses 43 through 48. This is the Sermon on the Mount, a particular part of it. There our Lord says to his disciples, and other people were there at the time, but you will see in just a few minutes, he was speaking specific to his disciples. He says, "You have heard that it was said, 'You shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy.'" I want you to know, church family, that he's talking about the Mosaic law. One of the issues always talked about in areas of Christianity is what is the binding strength of the Mosaic law. I want you to notice what Jesus says. He said that you heard it said. He's referring to the Mosaic law. It is found in, where is it? All right. 15. It's found in Leviticus 19:18. He's saying, you heard it, but I say unto you. Now, do you see the difference there? You heard it one way, but I'm telling you something else. Do you see that? I hope you're looking at the text. I don't want you to accuse your pastor of saying crazy stuff. The text is right before you. He says, you have heard it. You have heard that it was said. That's Mosaic law. You shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, he's now going to contradict it. You love your enemies. Bless those who curse you. Do good to those who hate you. And pray for those who spitefully use you and persecute you. Verse 45, that you may be sons of your Father in heaven. For he makes his sun, this is God's son, S-U-N, he makes his sun rise on the evil and on the good. How many know about that? Yeah, even when you was evil, the sun came up, right? That's right. It didn't stay black because you was doing evil stuff, right? It came up, so you know what it's like. He makes the sun rise on the evil and the good, and sends rain on the just and on the unjust. You know, if you have not believed in Christ, you are not unjust. You are not just. So it still rained. You still got food. Crops still came. All right? Okay. For if you love those who love you, what reward have you? You ain't doing nothing big because you love your mother. Your mother loves you back. You ain't doing nothing big. Do not even the tax collectors do the same? Is my mic on? Okay. Verse 47, and if you greet your brethren only, what do you more than others? You ain't doing nothing big if you say what's up to people who like you. Everyone does that. Do not even the tax collectors do that? Right. Therefore, here is the text. You shall be perfect just as your Father in heaven is perfect. What does that mean? We have seen this perfectionist theology go all out. This is one of the texts that is always used. Even when I conducted Sabbath school at the convocation, for those of you who were there, some of the comments that came up when I discussed what the word means, they were like, well, how could it mean that? How could perfect mean mature? And it says, be ye what? Mature like God, as we need to be mature like God? Or are you saying that God had to mature? He had to grow from one end to another? That was something that came up. I didn't have time to deal with it, but I'm going to deal with it today. The word is mature, but you're going to see by text how we understand that. Before that, I want to, as many of you know, some of you have talked about it, that the Pope indicated this week, and this is strong, of course, for the Catholic Church, but the Protestants, I want to let you know that's why I'm talking about it, because he is correct. He indicated that the Big Bang Theory is a theory that can be held by the text, whether you are a literalist or an allegorist. A literalist is someone who literally takes what they see here. An allegorist says, well, no, these are just clever stories to explain what they thought was occurring in their culture. I want you to know that I am a literalist. I do take it as it is. I'm not an over-literalist. I can detect metaphors. I can detect similes. I can do that. But I am a literalist. I don't read this as an allegory. I can detect parables, but I take it as it is. But whether you are a literalist or an allegorist, he indicated that it is something that the text could handle. Church family, the reason why this is coming up is because many people are applauding Pope Francis for his courage to make statements that we have always known is in the text. Whether it's dealing with homosexuality, whatever it may be. Of course, as you know, when you say things like that, you're going to face some backlash. I face them too. There are people at PUC who faces them, but I want you to know I got his back. People face it all over the text. But what we have found is that most people cannot read the text, so they're operating on myths and false assumptions. And so to keep the waters level, you don't counter them. You just let it go as is. But Pope Francis and many people who have done this quietly, you can read their books, we know what the text is indicating, and we know that it's something that it can handle. What you have to understand is the concept and the text. I want to take a couple of minutes to explain how the text, Genesis 1:1, right? Genesis, God spake and it was done. He commanded and it stood fast. Did it in 6 days. On the seventh day, he rested. You know, and then we take the word, and we take that word that is talked about in Genesis and apply it to Jesus Christ. He now is the word. And we create theologies about it, and we think that, well, if you talk about the Big Bang Theory and evolution, it destroys all that. For centuries, we know that is not the case. And I want to show you how right now. If you will notice, it talks about, the Big Bang Theory. This is the basic of the theory. It is that the universe simply exploded into existence. Does that make sense? I mean, the concept. You understand the concept. It exploded into existence. And that is what the Big Bang Theory is about. The reason why it's so strong in the scientific world is because they are able to they are finding matter. Well, I'm not a scientist, so I could be saying this wrong. You're going to want to check this. But as I understand it, they're finding things here on Earth where they, by calculation, that indicates of an explosion that occurred thousands or millions, they say, however you're reckoning, time before. They are calculating it, going to the place on the Earth where, based on the calculations, it should be, and they're finding it. They're simply finding it all over. And they are claiming that that is an indication that there was some explosion that brought this universe into existence. They're saying that the evidence is weighty. You have some in the religious side who are saying, no, it didn't happen that way. And this is where the problem is heading. This is why the Pope had to deal with it. I want you to understand is what the Pope and most people who understand the text do understand. This is not the only, but I don't have time to go through it in detail. But I want you to see Genesis 1:1. It says there in your Bible, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Am I right? Okay. In Hebrew, when the word that is translated heaven and translated earth comes together, it conveys the entire universe. Oftentimes, English readers, when they see that, they think heaven and earth means it is only the immediate space relevant to mankind. Sky and some space that you can, didn't that space shuttle, not the space shuttle, but spacecraft crashed just this past week, right? They're still trying to get space travel for the public. It crashed, and a pilot died. I think the other pilot is injured. But trying to get there so we can see it. We think when we see the word heavens, it is indicating sky and then the atmosphere above it that we've seen by pictures, and a little bit more that we've seen by telescope, right? That's what heavens mean. And then earth means planet Earth. But in fact, when the words are put together, heavens and earth, it conveys the entire universe, the entire galaxy, not only the immediate space relevant to mankind and planet Earth. That's a concept that sometimes, and this is the traditional exegesis throughout history. There are some who deviate. There's three other ways that they seek to interpret heavens and earth. But the traditional one, if you were not aware, it is that the Hebrew word heavens and the Hebrew word earth, translated that way, when put together, is the entire galaxy. And so, do you realize what that means? That means that before God began ordering the space that is relevant to mankind, that's what you read in verses 2 all the way through 20, he created the universe and seemingly all physical laws as a whole instantly. So let me be sure that I'm clear. Genesis 1:1 will be saying that we don't know what non-creation looks like. But whatever it is, I don't even know what that is. People think it's darkness. We don't even know that because the Bible indicates that nothing was made, nothing that exists was made. Everything that exists had a beginning that was made by God. So darkness, then, if you take that understanding, was made by God. So whatever non-creation looks like, I have no clue. But whatever that is, God entered non-creation and he said, bang! Whatever he said. I don't even know what he said. But whatever he did, the universe came. Right? It came. Now, I'm not talking about planet Earth and our space. The entire universe that we cannot see everything came. Just like that. The Bible says he spoke and it was done. He commanded and it stood fast. He didn't speak English. He didn't speak Hebrew, Greek, whatever. We don't know what God's language is. I don't know exactly what came out of the Lord's mouth. God's a spirit, but I'm having troubles because I have God's a spirit. I'm speaking in terms, Hoffman. You see what you said? I'm speaking in terms that we understand. God, I guess he spoke, whatever he spoke, and the entire universe came into existence in an instant. That would mean in that instant, all physical laws, gravity, everything that takes us years to understand came instantly. And after the whole universe was created, the part that is relevant to us, he began to order. He began to order. That's the second the careful ordering of the space relevant to us. That is planet Earth, the space, whatever we can see. It speaks to the loftiness of our particular situation. For God to have put everything just instantly and then carefully order our space, it speaks to the loftiness of this creation. God knows everything. He already knew what was going to happen on planet Earth. And I don't want to digress. He already knew what was going to happen on planet Earth. But he took time to order what is relevant to us. He separated light from darkness. He began to make the firmament. He then called certain things on different days. He is slowly ordering his massive creation in this area. Now, whether he did that for all areas, the Bible is completely silent on. It would all be guessing. All we know is what, according to the Hebrew mind, when they wrote this, it is that God created the entire universe. Bang! It happened. And then he began to order the space relevant to us. And that's what you read from verses 2 through 31, all the way to the 6th day. There's more involved in it, but I don't have time to go through it, but I just want to give it to you. This is why he makes the claim that the Big Bang Theory can be held by the text, because it is simply that it exploded into existence. And then he began to order. Does that make sense? He began to order. 6 days. Does that make sense? That is what he was referring to. People have different concepts, but just so you have it, if you want more information, talk to me, call me. I can get it to you, but I just want to give you the working knowledge so you don't leave here and start telling us that the time of the end is at hand because the Pope said the Big Bang Theory can be held by the text. And, our theology tells us that when the papacy does this and America is speaking like a lamb but a dragon, I don't want you going off the deep end. I don't want that. And then turn around, when I go to Berea. Okay, just stop. No, that's not it. I don't want you to do that, okay? I want you to have a working knowledge. You can go deeper and deeper into it, but this is the working knowledge of how it works on the text. And this is what he is saying. I will tell you this, however, let me say one more thing. You may be wondering about microevolution. Microevolution is the concept, and we've talked about this before, it is the concept of something evolving from something else that's of its kind, right? A wolf becomes a dog, right? Am I right? That's microevolution. The Bible speaks to that. I'll give you one example in Genesis 1:21. It says, so God created sea creatures and every living thing that moves with which the waters abounded. Now look at this. Look at the phrase, according to their kind. And every winged bird according to its kind. And this is repeated in other verses. That is to say that a winged bird can evolve to another type of winged bird according to its kind. So we know that a dog is a wolf. It's according to its kind. It sure can evolve. It can adapt over time, over years, over climate. That's what it talks about. It evolves. How do you think we get all these kind of certain fruits that you know were engineered? How do you think they did that? It's according to its kind. But macroevolution, which the Bible rejects, is creating something outside of its kind. Can a tree evolve to a rabbit? No. It's out of its kind. The rabbit can evolve to other types of what we would call rabbits. We may even give it another name, but the rabbit can't evolve to a tree. A monkey cannot evolve to a human. It is impossible. Even today, it has not been done. It has not been done. No one has ever done it. We know that is called macroevolution, and the Bible speaks against it. Let me end this last slide. So Bible does not support randomness or macroevolution. That is to say, the Big Bang Theory just happened because it just happened. No. It happened, this is the believer, it happened because God spoke it that way. That's what they call intelligent design, right? The Bible does not support randomness, but it does support, you can see Big Bang in it, and it does not support macroevolution. Am I making sense, church family? Does it make sense? Okay. So when I hear about this stuff in our schools where there's an argument or they're teaching evolution, I always want to know, which evolution are you talking about? If they're talking about microevolution, they're right. If they say it's macro, okay, well then, no. They could not tell you that it's found in the Bible. They're just teaching you what the science people. But we know if they teach you Big Bang, the question is, are you saying Big Bang because God spoke it that way, or are you saying it was random? It just boom and exploded, and that's how it happened, right? That's the difference. But I want you to approach it in an intelligent way. You want to understand what's going on, and you understand better, and it gets deeper, but you understand better what the text is saying. Don't just sweep it on the run because of buzzwords that you hear, evolution, and now the time of the end. Don't do that. Don't do that. Some people have been brainwashed that way. We're trying to unbrainwash that. We're trying to, is that right? Can I say that? Unbrainwash? We're trying to take it back. All right? We want you to be clear on it. And this is not new. This didn't come out in 2014. I can pull many competent readers and commentators on the Bible who, they call this theistic evolution. They got fancy words. Theistic evolution. But, don't get scared of the buzzword. You want to know exactly what it's dealing with. In closing, let me deal one more, and this is be ye perfect as your Father in heaven perfect. I think is a perfect segue as we approach the emblems. This is clear. It says there, this is your text. Therefore you shall be perfect, church family, just as your Father in heaven is perfect. We have been discussing that the word perfect is teleos. Am I right? It is maturity. People who don't read it, they still want to take the English, although they didn't speak English. I don't know what they're talking about. They said teleos. So then, a question will come, well then, did God have to mature? If they're using the word perfect for Father, which we know is to be God, is Matthew saying that Jesus is telling his disciples that God had to mature and you need to mature as God matures? The answer is no. That's not what he's saying. Well, how do you know that, Pastor? It can't be no just because you say that. That is correct. You want the evidence. Well, here is the evidence. You do realize that Matthew 5 is talking about love and love your enemies. You do realize that, right? I read the text. It's easier for you to love your mom because she loves you back. But what about someone who you've been in a fight with? What about someone who you know is talking bad behind your back? What about someone who you know doesn't like you? Can you love them? That's what it's dealing with. Loving your enemies. Easy to love someone that loves you back. Easy. The tax collectors do that. Jesus is saying you need to love your enemies. And you can look at it in Luke chapter 6, verse 36. It's the same thing, but in a different version. But here is the context. Teleos, when it modifies father, if I put teleos to father, and I'm saying father is God, it translates to ultimate mature. I'm going to let that sink in. Ultimate mature. And we know this because of the perception that Jesus has of God. The writers already see God as all-knowing, being everywhere. So we know he doesn't have to mature. So when you use a word of mature next to the Father, you know it's representing ultimate mature. Let me give you an example. You'll catch this. If I go and I'm talking to doctors, and after my speech, I say at the end of my speech to doctors, be a great physician as your Father in heaven is a great physician. Am I saying that God had to go to medical school? Am I saying God had to learn medicine? You know, he had to get a BA and do all this before he became a great physician? No. The fact that I'm using great physician by modifying God, I am saying that he is the standard. And then when I say it to you, us, I'm saying that that's something we have to strive for. Make sense? Make sense? So when they use the word teleos, the Father, he's saying he's a standard of maturity. If you want to see what ultimate maturity looks like, look at God. Look at God. He's the ultimate mature. He's the ultimate physician. He's the ultimate attorney. He's the ultimate singer. Whatever you use to modify to God, you are saying he's ultimate. And we know that because of your view of God. Now, if I was an atheist, then you'd have to ask the question. You're like, well, is he saying that God? You'd have to ask that. But I have already indicated by my speeches and my writings that I believe God to be all-knowing. So if I use a word like that to modify him, I'm saying he's the ultimate mature. And this ultimate mature loves his enemies. The ultimate God loves his enemies. Okay? You and I need to mature like that. We need to be mature like the ultimate mature. In what context? Of loving your enemies. Don't tell me now that the ultimate mature, who has all power, can love his enemies, but us, who got no kind of power, can't even love our enemies. You can't love your enemies. It doesn't even make sense. If the ultimate mature can do it, you should strive. That's in the word mature. In the word mature does not mean you will get there. That's another sermon altogether. It's not saying you will get there. The word is carrying, you strive for it. You will fail. Times you want to love someone and you can't because you're still angry. Right? But in striving to be like the ultimate mature, you spiritually grow stronger and stronger and stronger. I've used this analogy before, the dog race, right? The dogs are chasing a mechanical rabbit. They will never catch the rabbit. It is impossible. You tell the dog, be as fast, be fast like the rabbit as your father's fast. So whatever you say to the dog. It can't catch it. But in trying to catch, in striving to be as fast as a rabbit, those dogs get stronger. They get more agile. You see the muscle when they're running. It's fantastic. This is what is being conveyed. You, us, the human needs to strive to be like the ultimate mature. In what context? Remember, context is always important. The context is loving your enemies. Jesus said to them, what you see there in English, it is emphatic. in Greek. It's in emphatic. It's emphatic. That means he said, there's other people around him, but he said specifically to his disciples, you be perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect. You disciples, not just speaking to everybody else, you disciples strive to love your enemies as the ultimate mature loves his enemies. He makes it rain on them. He makes it not rain on them. He makes the sun come out. He does it. This is what the teaching of Jesus is. So please, church family, if anyone comes and tries to tell you that perfection means flawless, you tell them it doesn't, because it doesn't. Maybe in English, but the word imperfect, it's teleos. You tell them what it means, and if they jump to this text, you explain it to them. And in my opinion, that this teaching of Jesus is revolutionary. Not only is it revolutionary because we don't do that to our enemies. Our concept is you deserve it. You talk bad to me, I'm going to take you out. That's that. We can be mad. I don't like him or her because that is how we function with each other. But this is revolutionary. He says that's easy. You're doing something easy. All the big guys and tough guys who you think are attractive because they are mean to people and they got this way about them, Jesus says anyone could do that. I'm going to tell you what takes strength. What takes strength is to go to your enemy and to love them. That takes strength. It ain't no strength to love someone who loves you back. Anyone does that. And this is what he is asking them to do. And Jesus saying, your Father in heaven does it. He didn't kill all of y'all off. He didn't do that. Those times you was acting crazy, he didn't do that. Then you turn around and you prayed to him, and he came through for you. That's what he has done. You strive to be like that. And there is no love greater than to lay your life down for someone else. Can you do that for your enemy? I don't know that I could. I'm telling you right now, your pastor, I can exegete the text. But I don't know that, and I do strive for it, but I can tell you I'm a little ways from it. I don't know that I could put my life down. I could put it down for my mom because I love her, and she loves me back. My brother who's about to get married, hey, I'd put it down for him. I love him. He loves me back. But enemies that I know exist in my mind, as I constitute them enemies, if their life was to be taken and the person said, it's you or them, I'm like, oh, you about to go then. And in my mind, I'm going to be thinking, and you deserve it too. And I remember all the stuff. That is how I would respond. But the rubric to us is that, no. The ultimate mature didn't do that to you. He didn't do that to you. While his enemy, he laid down his life. He laid it down. He laid it down. And this is what we commemorate when we do this. He laid it down in human form to try to teach mankind that although we are in this massive mess in this temporal life, God has fixed it, and he will come back in the person of Christ, work to right every wrong, pull sin out of mankind, remake it, and we will be as he intended us to be in Genesis 1:1, when he bang and everything was there and slowly ordered it all together. This is the good news, church family. I wish I had time. I know you don't. You'd be like, good thing Pastor got to go because he keep on going. I wish I had time. There's so much to say. I'm jumping quickly. Yeah, I'm jumping. Maybe I should be a seminary professor. People have told me that. Maybe it's like because then I have hours to teach people. Hours. So much to say. I'm just jumping. Just going quickly. And I'm hoping that this blesses your life and encourages your faith and gives you a correct understanding of who God is based on this text. Who he is and the kind of person he is.